Pleased to bring in the former United States ambassador to the United Nations, Ambassador John Bolton. Good to have you in today, sir.
Glad to be with you.
In a way, it's like the fog is there, so we know that it most likely, they can point to that as why the chopper went down. We'll get into some of the back and forth as far as the type of helicopter and its age. I think I want to get into first, though, the Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, 85 years old. Raisi was discussed as being a potential contender. So now with his death, it does look like Khamenei's 55-year-old son is the only person now who might be able to take his place. And some say that is a real key here because no one would possibly oppose him. What do you think the succession looks like now for the Ayatollah, who obviously, as many people know, much more, obviously the supreme leader, unlike the president, who really didn't have much say in the direction of some of the country?
Well, Iran doesn't exactly have a stable constitutional structure. They've only had two supreme leaders since the revolution in 1979. And many think that Khamenei was the current supreme leader, was grooming Raisi to take over when he died. Khamenei himself is in his early 80s. He's not in good health. And really, it's a very fragile situation. So with Raisi gone, it does leave open what the succession might look like. I think most people feel Khamenei doesn't think his son should succeed him. That's why they groomed Raisi. Now, the son obviously has a different point of view. So this is potentially quite serious for Iran with really no backup for Raisi here, and could be a moment for the Iranian opposition, because when this succession question comes to a head here, probably in a few weeks, when they have to try and decide if they're ready to hold a presidential election, that could be the moment when the regime fractures at the top, and it's very vulnerable at that point. Of course, we should be, from the outside, trying to help that process along. I'm sure the Biden administration is not doing anything.
No, clearly. Well, they have not issued any statement. We're going to go to the Pentagon in a minute. What do you make of Saudi Arabia offering condolences? Jake Sullivan was just there over the weekend talking to the kingdom, and they're actually talking about this semifinal version of a security ranging, agreement between us and Saudi. And we know that Iranian proxies in Yemen, the Houthis, have been really a thorn in the back for them. So why would they do this as they're also seeking help from the United States, Ambassador Bolton?
Because it's the Middle East. And one thing that's going on here is that because the Saudis were so distressed by the Biden administration, essentially calling them a pariah for the murder of Khashoggi, the Washington Post journalist, and trying to put them out of the business of hydrocarbons, and negotiating with the Iranians to go back into the Obama 2015 nuclear deal, that the Saudis acquiesced in a Chinese request that they exchange formal diplomatic relations with Iran. So they're doing what you do when you have formal diplomatic relations, and making a formal gesture of sympathy that Raisi is on his way to meet his maker. I don't treat it as very serious, but I think that the effort to get basically a huge deal with the Saudis, the Israelis over a Palestinian state, and various other things the administration is trying, are not going to work here. It's they're trying to do too much, and this is the wrong time to try and do it.
Ambassador Bolton, the ICC bringing forward these charges for Hamas and Netanyahu, putting them kind of on the same line here. What's your reaction to that? And also, in addition, over the weekend, War Cabinet Minister Benny Gantz threatened to quit. More pressure on Netanyahu as well there.
Well, the pressure on Netanyahu, what Gantz said, what the defense minister had said previously, the calls for new elections by Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi some weeks back, shows to me that the Biden administration has adopted the regime change policy. Which is good news, their only mistake is they're applying it to the wrong country, Israel, rather than Iran, a few hundred miles to the east. It's clear the Biden administration doesn't like Biden, but let's be clear on this ICC prosecutor request for an arrest warrant. The International Criminal Court is a fundamentally illegitimate institution. It's a fantasy idea. It sits out there in the atmosphere somewhere with no accountability, no control over it, no checks. And, historically, people have referred to Israel as the canary in the coal mine for the United States. And that's exactly what's going on here. When a prosecutor can go after a rule of law, democratic state in the middle of a war with no oversight, no accountability at all, it's only a matter of time before they come after the United States. The ICC is a thoroughly bad idea from top to bottom. And the fact that it has intervened in the middle of a war without anybody that has a stake in the war, like the United States or anybody else on the Security Council of the UN weighing in, may well prolong the war, may well make a resolution more difficult. So the only silver lining here is this ought to cement the United States never having anything to do with the ICC. And I support what's going on in Congress now. In fact, I proposed it during my time as National Security Advisor to put sanctions on the International Criminal Court that comes after the U.S. or its allies.
Ambassador John Bolton, always good to have you in today, sir. Obviously, a lot of development with Iran and succession plans again. Thank you so much for joining us right here today on Newsline.